At 24 years old, Ethan Carter believed he was running out of chances. Every morning looked exactly the same. The alarm rang. He stared at the ceiling. And before his feet even touched the floor, a single thought filled his mind. I'm already behind. His friends were building careers. Some had started businesses. Others were buying homes, getting married, and posting pictures of lives that seemed perfect. Meanwhile, Ethan was working a job he hated, barely earning enough to pay rent. Every paycheck disappeared before the month ended. Every dream felt farther away than the one before. The hardest part wasn't failing. It was pretending everything was okay. Every time someone asked, "How's life going?" he smiled. Pretty good. But inside, he felt like he was slowly disappearing. One evening, after another exhausting shift, Ethan sat alone in his tiny apartment. Rain tapped softly against the window. The room was silent except for the ticking of an old clock. Bills were scattered across the table. A half-empty coffee cup sat beside them. He picked up his phone and scrolled through social media. Success. Luxury. Vacations. Celebrations. Every picture made him feel smaller. He closed the app. Then something caught his attention. His own reflection in the dark phone screen. For a long moment he simply stared. The tired eyes. The slumped shoulders. The man looking back wasn't lazy. He wasn't untalented. He had simply spent years waiting for life to change, instead of changing himself. That realization hurt. But sometimes, the truth hurts before it heals. Ethan stood up and walked to the bathroom mirror. For the first time in years, he looked directly into his own eyes. No excuses. No blaming the economy. No blaming bad luck. No blaming other people. Just honesty. And then, he quietly asked himself one question. If nothing changes today, where will I be 5 years from now? The answer terrified him. Because he already knew it. Exactly where he was standing. Only older. Only more tired. Only filled with even more regret. That night, Ethan didn't find motivation. He found something far more powerful. A decision. A decision that would change everything. The next morning didn't feel magical. There was no sudden burst of confidence. No motivational music. No miracle waiting outside his window. Only the same alarm clock. The same apartment. The same exhausted version of Ethan Carter. For a moment, he almost rolled over and went back to sleep. It would have been easier. It always was. But then he remembered the question he had asked himself the night before. If nothing changes today, where will I be 5 years from now? That question refused to leave his mind. Slowly, Ethan sat up. He made his bed. Not because anyone would see it, but because it was the first promise he intended to keep. He drank a glass of water. Opened the curtains. For the first time in months, he watched the sunrise. The city looked different. Or maybe, he was the one beginning to change. He found an old notebook hidden inside a drawer. Most of its pages were empty. On the very first page, he wrote 3 simple words. No more excuses. Below that, he wrote 3 goals. Wake up early. Learn something every day. Never quit after one bad day. The goals weren't impressive. Nobody would post them online. Nobody would clap for them. But deep inside, Ethan knew. Great lives are built on small promises kept consistently. That afternoon, instead of wasting hours scrolling through social media, he walked into a small bookstore. He bought one book. Not because he loved reading. Because he wanted to become someone who never stopped learning. That evening, he went for a short run. He barely lasted 10 minutes. His legs burned. His lungs begged him to stop. The old Ethan would have quit. But this time, he slowed down. He walked. Then he kept moving. As the sun disappeared behind the buildings, Ethan smiled for the first time in a long while. Not because he had achieved success. but because he had finally defeated the hardest opponent he would ever face. The voice inside his own head. He didn't realize it yet. But the smallest decisions often create the biggest transformations. And tomorrow, he would make another one. The first month was harder than Ethan expected. Nothing around him had changed. His bank account still looked empty. His apartment was still small. His job was still exhausting. Every morning, a quiet voice whispered, "See? None of this is working." Some days he believed it. One cold Monday morning, he overslept. He skipped his workout. He didn't read a single page. That night, disappointment hit him harder than ever. The old Ethan would have called it failure. He would have quit. Again. But this time, something was different. Instead of giving up, he opened his notebook. Under the words, "No more excuses," he wrote another sentence. "One bad day doesn't erase a good month." That sentence became his new rule. The next morning, he started again. No guilt. No excuses. Just action. Day after day, his habits became stronger. Reading no longer felt difficult. Morning runs became easier. He spent less time comparing himself to others, and more time competing with the person he had been yesterday. People around him slowly noticed the change. His coworkers asked why he always arrived early. His friends wondered why he spent Friday nights reading instead of complaining. Even his manager noticed something different. Not because Ethan talked more, but because he worked with quiet focus. For the first time in years, he wasn't chasing motivation. He was building discipline. Weeks turned into months. His body grew stronger. His mind became calmer. His confidence no longer came from compliments. It came from promises he kept to himself. And that confidence changed everything. Because once you prove to yourself that you can trust your own actions, the world begins to trust you too. Ethan still wasn't successful. Not yet. But every single day, he was becoming the kind of person success could finally recognize. One ordinary Tuesday morning, Ethan walked into work expecting another normal day. But life has a strange way of rewarding people when they stop chasing rewards. His manager called him into the office. For a brief moment, Ethan thought he had done something wrong. Instead, his manager smiled. "I've been watching you for months," he said. "You show up early. You never complain. You solve problems without being asked. We need someone to lead our new project. I'm offering you the position." Ethan stood there in silence. Not because of the promotion, but because he remembered the man who had stared into the bathroom mirror just 1 year earlier. The man who believed he had no future. The man who blamed everything except himself. That man was gone. Weeks later, his life looked different. Not perfect, but different. His apartment was still simple. He still woke up before sunrise. He still read every morning. He still exercised. Not because he had to, because that had become who he was. One evening, while walking through the same city streets where he once felt invisible, he noticed a young man sitting alone on a park bench. Head down. Shoulders heavy. The same look Ethan used to carry. He sat beside him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then the young man quietly asked, "How do people change their lives?" Ethan smiled. Not the smile of someone who knew every answer, but the smile of someone who had lived the question. He replied, "They don't change everything in one day. They change one decision. And then they protect that decision every single day after." The young man looked at him in silence. Maybe he understood. Maybe he didn't. But Ethan knew something important. Real success isn't measured by money. It isn't measured by fame. It's measured by the person you become while chasing your dreams. That night, Ethan returned home. He opened the same notebook. The first page still read, "No more excuses." He smiled. Then, beneath those words, he added one final sentence. Discipline gave me the life excuses never could. He closed the notebook, turned off the light, and for the first time in many years, he fell asleep without fear. Because tomorrow no longer scared him. He had become someone capable of facing it. So remember this. No one is coming to rescue your dreams. No perfect moment is waiting for you. Your future begins the moment you stop waiting and start moving. One decision, one habit, one day at a time. Because the life you've been wishing for is quietly waiting on the other side of your discipline. If this story inspired you, remember this. Your future is created by what you do today, not what you plan for tomorrow. Subscribe to ABD's Creations for more powerful stories that inspire real change. See you in the next journey. Red Heart.